Okay, we're live. Hey guys, how's it going? Mike here. Random live video. So if you're just joining, just please say hi in the comment section, and I will try my best to cover everything I want to talk about today. So first, as I always do with all my live videos, my setup. If you see me looking a certain way, so I've got the camera in front of me, my microphone. Hopefully you can hear me, and then I've got my computer screen to my left. So if you see me looking like this, I'm just looking at the computer screen. Okay. All right. If you are tuning in with me, just say hi, say what's up, and let me know where you're watching from. Okay, I hope everybody is having a blast, and I hope you are preparing for the holidays. What's up, Joseph? Um, I am. I really can't go anywhere really because this guy just had a baby. And also, speaking of, I want to thank all of you, everybody who wished me well with my "We Had a Baby" video. I can go to every comment and just but I really appreciate all the compliments. Thank you guys so much. And baby's doing great, mom is doing great. But this video, I want to talk about some aviation news. So I've got my notes here. Just give me 1 minute. I try to keep myself organized with whatever I'm going to talk about. So good. I've got notes here, and we're just gonna go through the notes one and one and one and one. Just say what's up if you're tuning in. Tony, how you doing, man? Sonny, thank you so much for tuning in. Rich from Arizona, appreciate you tuning in, man. So anyway, another thing I should address before I jump into my main topic today. The last couple of videos, or the last two videos I did, we covered the Saber Wing, and also I did a Liz video that released, I believe, yesterday. And there was some miscommunication or error on my part, and I saw in the comments. So rather than address every single comment, I'm just gonna say it on this video. So in the videos you watched, I mentioned that you cannot fly, or not in those words, but perhaps the way it was received was that you wouldn't be able to fly tailwheel without a private pilot license or a tailwheel endorsement. That is false, okay? So that is an error on my part. You can actually fly a tailwheel airplane with a sports license. So you don't need a private, and you don't necessarily need an endorsement. And I think it's a little weird. If you do have a private pilot license, you do have to have a tailwheel endorsement, right? But if you have a sport pilot license, you don't necessarily need one. Hell, you can even train and get your sport license in a tailwheel airplane. So, but that's just my error, and I hope I'm correcting it right now. Okay, I'm just gonna say hi to everybody again real quick. Gary from Nashville, appreciate you, man. Jonathan, Joseph from Arkansas, thank you for tuning in. And guys, if please let me know if you see or hear any technical issues. If the video is blurred, just let me know. I can always adjust it right here in front of me. And also, if the microphone is, if you can't hear me, I'm just going to get closer like this so you can hear me better. But anyway, so let's get into today's video. With what I do on Mojo Grip, I love to promote airplanes and aviation because it's my passion. And I know a lot of people who watch this channel, they get excited the same way I do. And one of the reasons why I'm making this video and talk about airplane crashes is because I don't want everyone to just feel like, everything is glamorized, or maybe I'm glamorized and flying. Flying is incredible. If you ever get the opportunity to fly, it's a lifetime experience. But there are also some parts of flying that I don't talk about on the channel, which is airplane crashes. The fact is, it exists, it happens, and the best thing we can do with crashes, especially fatal crashes, is that we try to learn from them. But the thing is, as pilots, we're all vulnerable to something going wrong. Something can happen with the airplane, something can happen with the pilot. The good news is, and I'm going to pull up this article right now. So EAA ran a report recently. Hey, Damien from Atlanta, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you, Gary. Look, we're still Gary says your house looks nice. If you see, I'm like in the middle of what should be like an office or dining area close to the kitchen area here. So if you see the uh, the stuff behind me, we're basically right by the kitchen. So thank you. Um, so anyway, back to my video, or what I was talking about. So EAA released a video recently talking about how right now airplane crashes actually, in especially in GA, general aviation, it's at a historic low rate. Uh, More particular, experimental airplanes. So for whatever reason, experimental airplanes and light airplanes tend to have more accident rates. And right now, when they did a report on the last 10 years, the number has gone down, except the last 12 months, it's actually went up. And so we're going to address that. And I'll read, let me see, let me pull up right here. So it says experimental and amateur built aircraft accident remain below FAA decade long research. And but when they looked from October 1st last year to September 30th this year, the fatal accidents totals for the experimental category overall has gone up. So FAA has a limit that they would like to keep the rate low. So I believe 47 was the ceiling they set. But in the last 12 months, or the dates I just mentioned, we actually had, unfortunately, we had 52 fatal crashes in the experimental category. And so I want to talk about this because it's important that we're informed about it, and I'm going to use two crashes that are more particular. So last year we had two crashes here local to the state of Georgia. As a matter of fact, we just had one recently at PDK, and this was a certified airplane. But the two that happened last year, those were both experimental airplanes, and they were close to home in a way because I knew one of them and I knew of another one. So the two crashes I'm talking about, if you guys recall commuter aircraft, that's an airplane I've covered once or twice on the channel. And so actually let me pull up the accident report. So if you're familiar with commuter craft, I believe is the name, commuter craft. It was an experimental built. As a matter of fact, if you look at the Raptor aircraft, they're very similar in design. Okay, so commuter craft was supposed to be this really neat. Excuse me, I'm just okay back. So commuter craft was, they've been designing it now. It's been a few years that I've known about it, and I wanted to cover it more in depth, and I was hoping we'd get a chance to do that. But hey, Dan, you're amazing. Thank you. Um, and guys, if you want to slap some bills on Mojo Grip, just do as Dan did. And I appreciate everyone who's throwing money at me. Thank you guys so much. So anyway, commuter craft was being designed, and this airplane was supposed to go into mass production, at least the kit. And last year, unfortunately, the founder and the designer of the airplane crashed in a test flight. Okay, and from what I've read, so they took off. It was supposed to be a normal day, just going for it. And the prototype he was flying on that day, they've flown it before, so it wasn't like this was the very first flight. So they took off. They were supposed to go in the pattern, or from the report I said, they took off, probably didn't climb more than 200 feet before he noticed something was happening with the airplane, and he tried to shoot back to the airport or at the runway. So he was able to go up, turn crosswind, and then downwind, and then from the downwind, the airplane just nosed down, and that was it. And sadly, the pilot, again, the original designer and the founder of that company, passed away with that accident. So that's one of them, and the second one is of the airplane I recently covered, Saberwing. So Saberwing to me is a very neat airplane, and I just gave you guys an update. Anyone who's interested in building an airplane like the Saberwing, reach out to them. But Saberwing, I believe it was the second or the third builder You guys may know him, Larry, and we've interviewed Larry on this channel. So I met him in person. Very, very cool dude. And this was December 18th of last year, literally towards the holidays. And I remember I just read it. I think I was on Yahoo somewhere. I forgot where I read it. And guys, I'm gonna check the comments. I'm trying to cover this as fast as I can. So anyway, Larry was one of the builders of the Saber Wing. He's owned that airplane and flew it all around the country for the last year or two before the crash. And December 18th or 20th, no, it was 18th last year. I read, I think it was in a comment here on my channel, and somebody said, "Hey, did you hear about so and so and so?" So I went to, actually, I didn't even go search it. I went on Facebook because I'm friends with Larry on Facebook, and I just saw all of the comments going in like, "Holy shit, this really happened." And I was still in denial. I went to just go search it, and I remember just seeing his picture, and I was like, no, 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 because I knew this guy. I met him, very nice guy, and he loved that airplane. Well, long story short, from this is what I've heard, because I reached out to Bill at Azalea, who is the designer of the Saber Wing, and what they're reporting is that he was doing some aerobatics. Now I can't confirm that because when you read the accident report, the airplane, took off fine, but with the crash, basically everything broke apart in midair. So they found his body somewhere else. They found little bits of the airplane spread around different areas. So, and that tells us that the airplane just broke apart in midair. And again, the report is not the NTSB report, but the report from Azalea is that he was up there doing aerobatics, which, you know, in my mind, I wish he was here so I can like just shove him and say, why would you be doing that? And sorry, I'm reading the comments. I'm just trying to read them as they come in. And guys, please ask any questions while I'm talking. I'm gonna try to talk through this video, and then I'll check the comments and answer your questions. So anyway, back to Larry's story. So it was a normal day. I believe it was a Tuesday actually, and he went up, and they said he was practicing aerobatics. So the Saber Wing that's not an aerobatic airplane. That's one, and I believe the NTSB report showed that the airplane had exceeded negative 20 G's at the point of the breakage, right? And even aerobatics airplane, I don't know any airplane that can survive negative 20 G's. So another thing, if you're a non-pilot, the aerodynamics of an airplane, when you are flying an airplane, any airplane, you have low limitations that you can put on the wings or just the airplane in general. And if you go beyond those limitations, then you're putting both yourself and the airplane at risk. So say for example, if you put the airplane in a very bad behavior or situation, then you can put more load on the airplane. Or if you overload the airplane, if you put more weight than is instructed by the manufacturer, then you can move your CG either forward or after the airplane, and that can cause you not to be able to control the airplane. And in Larry's case, when you put the airplane in a really bad situation, it can break apart because the material that an airplane is built with, it has limitation on how much force you can put on it. And so if you put it beyond that force, it's gonna break. And so this brings me back to the main point of today's video and why I wanted to talk about it is, look, I love to talk about airplanes. I love to get more people involved, but to be safer for everybody, we have things that we have to practice. So as some of you already know, I'm building an airplane, which is in the experimental category. And safety obviously is something that I think about through this entire process. excuse me. So, say for example, the first story I told you about Mr. Hogan, who is the designer of the commuter craft. Unfortunately, his story is not. You have more stories like that where a prototype or an experimental prototype goes for its first flight or second or third flight, and boom, that's the last you hear of it. And part of it is because when you're building an airplane, you don't have a team of professionals, so to speak. A lot of times it's just you and maybe a bunch of friends. And when you go for that first flight, you have to be really careful. And for me, as I've announced before, I don't actually plan on test flying my airplane once it's done. I'm gonna hire a professional pilot or test pilot to do that. And so when you're in the experimental category, that's one thing you need to understand is that once you're done building the airplane, you got to go for that first flight and hope that everything goes well. So keep that in mind. Um, and then the second part with Larry's situation is, and I've talked about this before, guys. When you buy an airplane or you have access to an airplane, whatever the case may be, when you're flying, generally you have like a checklist or you have the manual for that airplane. And in that manual, that's like your Bible for that airplane. The manufacturer will tell you all of the numbers you need to look out for. It tells you your max speed, your range, the useful load on the airplane. And my thing is, whatever numbers that you get for whatever airplane that you're flying, you should set your own limitation. Okay, so say for example, if they tell you that the maximum speed on this airplane is 200 knots, you shouldn't push your luck and test that airplane to 200 knots. Okay, you should set your own limitation. So if they say you can fly 200 knots, I would say fly it. Maybe your own max should be 170 or 160. Don't get close to that red line and then find yourself in a bad situation. Second point, if a manufacturer tells you this airplane, these are the load limitations, it's not an aerobatic airplane, it's your normal cross country airplane or sport utility plane. Don't use it for something that it is not. If you want to practice aerobatics, get an airplane that's designed for that. Don't push your luck. And so these are the things that we probably should talk more about on the channel. And I'm gonna try to make more videos on safety. And my goal, honestly, is once I get back in the cockpit more frequently, these are the things I would love to talk about. And for example, when you watch either this channel or you watch other aviation channels and you see all these pilots flying their airplanes around the country, you should understand that there are procedures that happen before they got into that airplane, right? So there's something called pre-flight. You have to pre-flight your airplane, and hopefully you also have a flight plan for your trip. So all those things happen before a pilot even gets into the airplane to fly it. And so these are the things, once I start flying more, I'm going to document that so you don't think that you're just jumping into an airplane and you're just going. There's background work you got to do. You got to pre-fly the airplane. You got to check the weather, get weather report. Just know what's going on around you. Situational awareness, know these things, and that way you don't find yourself in a bad situation. Now, as per the report that EAA wrote, I think it's great news that we are seeing the numbers go down over the last 10 years. But again, we still have, fatalities in the experimental category. I believe the certified world, the fatalities also is down, depending on, and they vary based on the airplane make and model. But the fatalities are also down. But you guys should keep this in mind. Now I'm going to read the comments and try to answer questions. Okay. Go and scroll up. Hey, Chad M11, appreciate you tuning in from Augusta. You're right next door to me. A few hundred miles, but you're right next door. Anthony from New Jersey, thank you. Boom, boom, boom. I'm trying to find questions. Garrett Ballard, you want to know the types of crashes. Again, the two stories that I mentioned, and guys, a lot of times this is one of the downside when you read about airplane crashes. Is a lot of times, as a matter of fact, most cases, when NTSB, which is the department that does the investigation when an accident is reported, a lot of times the conclusion is pilot error. That's what happens a lot of times. So, but as a pilot, you have to understand that anything can happen. Okay, obviously you have to be on your game, but things can also go wrong with your airplane. As in the case of the commuter craft, I don't believe that was a pilot error. That was just something that went wrong with that airplane on takeoff. Okay, so but a lot of different situations, different times, you have different situations happen with crashes. Boom, boom, boom. And if you saw Draco, one of the most popular airplanes with Mike Patey, he crashed, and I'm so happy he survived that. Something like that could have been fatal, and that was pilot error, where the winds were doing something, and a decision could have been made. Okay, let's not go up flying, and he went up flying, and he admitted that. And see, these are the things, and I hope every pilot who makes a mistake, because we're all gonna make mistakes. We're all gonna be in a rush at some point. So it's about building good habits. And my wish is that we don't have fatal crashes, even if we have accidents. My wish is that pilots are able to talk about their accidents, so we can all learn from it. Let's see. Sport 2175 says I've lost three friends. Wow, sorry to hear that, man. Um, Three friends to GA crashes, and one of them was a CFI. That's another thing, guys. Again, we're all vulnerable. So sometimes when you hear about an accident report, people will say, "Well, he's a fresh pilot or he's a newbie." But oftentimes, when a crash happens, it's somebody who is well experienced, somebody who has hundreds of hours or thousands of hours. So it can happen to anybody. It really doesn't matter what kind of certification you hold. Uh, Whether you're a new pilot or whether you're an experienced pilot, crashes happen. So we all got to be careful. Hey Ron, I appreciate it, man, and I wish you best of luck on your pilot journey. Hey Dan, I'm with you. Whatever questions you have, just let me know. And guys, that's another thing. If you get in contact with me either through, and people contact me through Instagram or even email, and I always leave my emails all the time. If I don't respond to your email, please don't take it personal. Is I get a lot of them, and here's my life story. So usually when I get emails, I don't check my emails until probably midnight, and so whatever I'm able to answer at that point, I shoot it at you. Or if I get a chance to check it during the day, I generally just try to answer. If it's a quick question or something I can answer quickly, I would answer it. So, but if I don't get to your question or email, don't take it personal. I promise it's not. It's just time. It's just time. Uh, Thomas says if the plane broke apart, then there's no use for a parachute. That would be correct. So if you get in a situation where a plane breaks apart, and here's the thing: almost never do you see reports where an accident happens and the plane completely breaks apart. Okay, in most accidents, the plane is intact and it just hits the ground. So a parachute is a great thing to have in those situations. But yeah, if an airplane breaks apart in midair, then a parachute doesn't necessarily save you. But I can tell you a specific accident that happened with the Cirrus. So there was a midair collision where two airplanes collide, and one of them was a Cirrus, and the wings broke apart. But guess what? They pulled that parachute, and they survived that crash. So if one part of the airplane breaks off, a parachute can definitely still save your life. So it's an extra tool to have, in my opinion. Hey, John from Ireland, thank you so much for tuning in. Let's see, you guys. I'm trying to read questions. I don't see many of them. Let's see. Best thing to have. Hey, big dog. It is interesting that I'm talking about safety. It's important, and I think actually that I owe it to talk about it more, because we can talk about airplanes all day and we can glamorize it, but still, safety is an important topic that we should be discussing more on the channel. Boom, boom, boom. Andrew Dow, thank you, man. I can't wait either. Class 2 instructor, do you want a plane that will be forgiven or not so? So if I'm reading that question, it's basically saying, do you want a safer airplane? And guys, also another point I should mention about the report that I read with the EAA is that the the lower trend in accident rates is actually not due to the airplane being more safe. It's due to us having more conversations and pilots having more training, and that's what's helped us reduce the amount of accidents. Really, it's about the pilot. So, like, you can have as much safety envelope on an airplane, but if a pilot makes a fatal mistake, then it's a fatal mistake. So, and I think we have to continue building on that. Get more training. I'll give you an example. In the commercial airlines or commercial flying, the accident rate is this much compared to GA commercial airlines. The accident rate is almost non-existent. Now the downside is if a Boeing 737 crashes, it's taking a lot of lives, but the amount of crash that happens every year is almost zero. Right now, one of the reasons for that is when you become a commercial pilot, you have to stay current. So, and this is not just commercial. If you also fly a jet, so to fly any jet, you have to get what's called a type rating for that jet. And a type rating is like having an IFR on your license, which means you have to go back every 6 months, every year, whatever time limit. You have to go back and get tested again to make sure that you're current. And that's one of the reasons I think that the safety record is really good with commercial airplanes. Now, when you have a private pilot license, that's it. You get your license and you have it forever. Except maybe you do something stupid, you fly it drunk, whatever the case may be. If you don't do anything stupid to get your license suspended or taken away, you don't have to be current. You can literally take a year off and decide, hey, I'm gonna jump back in an airplane and go flying, which to me is not the best idea. So I guess the point I'm trying to make is, I think something I would suggest is when you're if you're not a commercial pilot and you're not required to get current every so often, even when you have a private pilot license, I think that it's best for you, and perhaps if we can build this culture to for all of us to also get current. So if you can afford it, say every 6 months or every year, you should go back with a CFI and make sure you're still doing things the right way. Because like I said, sometimes you have pilots who would take 6 months, a year off, and they just jump right back into it without anybody policing them about it. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, but flying an airplane is not like driving a car. A car you can take forever off and still get back in it and drive. But when you're flying, rules could have changed. As a matter of fact, rules with the airspace changed recently with the ADS-B in and out, things like that. So rules change, airspace may change. Your airplane may have changed, but more importantly, your muscle memory may have changed. So it's important to stay current. I know that's a really long answer, but I wanted to just put that out there. Okay. Sport 2175. What are my personal minimums for no go decisions? So for me, if it's overcast, okay. So I'll give an example. I believe, um, depending on the airspace that you're flying in, if you're a VFR pilot, it tells you that you can still fly with 3 miles visibility, right? So if they announce on the radio, so before you go up and fly, usually you get the ATIS and you get information on what's happening with the weather. So if they announce on the radio and they tell you you have 3 miles visibility, which, guys, if you know what 3 miles visibility is, it's like this much. It's not a lot. But as a VFR, the FAA tells you you can still fly. For me, my minimum is 5 or 6 miles. I would not get up there if it's 3 miles visibility. So that's one of my minimums. Or if the airplane that I'm flying and they tell me that the the stall speed. I'll give an example also. When I was flying the DA-40, I believe the stall speed on that airplane was 50, 59 or so, or 55 knots. I would never get that close to the stall speed. I would never even get close to 60 knots. So again, if they tell you the stall speed on this airplane is 60 knots, I would stay 10 to 20 knots above that. So that's what I mean by setting your own limitations. Those are my personal limitation. So with the airplane I'm flying, but also with the flight rules, if they tell me 3 miles visibility or three statute miles visibility, I'm doubling that. I'm not going up if it's three statute miles visibility. Or I don't have my IFR certification yet. If I see that it's overcast or just scattered clouds, I'm not getting up there. I'd rather stay down and wait for the sky to clear out where I have a better chance of even enjoying my flight. That's another thing. If you want to enjoy your flight, why would you put yourself at risk? So those are some of my personal minimums. And other personal minimums is I would not really fly around really high mountains. So if there's a lot of mountains around me now, given a lot of my hours is in LA where there's a lot of mountains in Southern California, but if it's not an area that I'm experienced with, I'm not going up because again, things can happen when you're flying around mountains. Um, Damian Taylor, what is the best experimental airplane for a beginner? That's I mean, that's a tough one. Airplanes honestly it's a personal preference thing, guys. I would tell you my opinion, but it's gonna be biased. As you know, I'm building a Sling TSI, so for me, that's the first airplane I'm gonna mention because that's the airplane that I'm building. And I think that's if you say go with a Sling 2, to me that's a great starter airplane and it's a very forgiving airplane. But honestly, it would depend on your mission and what you like. Um, so I can't really tell you what a good beginner airplane is. Let's see the more All right, guys. I'm just going through all the comments. If you see my face down low, and please ask any questions. It doesn't have to be about airplanes. Whatever question you may have for me, I'll try my best to answer them. Boom, boom, boom. Maurice Barlow, will I ever fly to my native country in the future? So, guys, if you are new to the channel, you know that you don't know, but I am Nigerian, born and raised in Lagos, Nigeria, and I moved here when I was 12 years old. So Maurice is asking me, will I ever fly to Nigeria? The answer to that is absolutely, as it's gonna happen. It's just a matter of time. So that's the simple answer there. Um, so Joanna says, don't you think experimental planes crash for two reasons? Too easy to take flight license in the USA, and experimental planes are not totally secure. So that's, to me, that's right and wrong. So the first reason you said is it's too easy to take flight license. That's not true. So to fly an experimental airplane, except you breaking the law, you do have to have a pilot's license, whether you're flying an experimental or a a certified airplane. The only airplane category I believe you don't need a license or a pilot's license is ultralights. I think ultralights you just need your driver's license. Um, so that's the first one. The second one, you said that the experimental planes are not totally secure. Okay, when it comes to experimental, it's so important on who's building the plane. So if you have your plane built by professionals or experienced builders, then you're probably gonna have a safer airplane. If you build it yourself, now I'm not saying that you're a bad person or you're not good with tools. Chances are you may miss something compared to somebody who's more experienced with it. So plain devil's advocate, I would say that it's not totally true that the plane is not secure. As a matter of fact, a lot of kits coming out today are really good kits, and they've been tested multiple times. And you have prototypes that are flying or been flying for years. Take the Vans RV airplanes. I mean, these kits have been around for a very long time, and you have thousands of pilots who have been flying the airplane for years, decades even. So it really depends on who's building the airplane for you to categorize how secure or safe it is. Stable plane. Garrett Paul, what avionics do you plan to get for the Sling? I'm looking between the Garmin and Dynon. So those are the top two right now. But when it happens, you'll be the first to know. I promise. Hey Ferris, thank you, man. Appreciate you watching. Game Machine, how are you sleeping with the new baby? I'm not. I don't know if you can tell in my eyes. Um, Actually, I have been sleeping better, so that's a lie. The first 2 days, the first night we brought the baby home, no sleep whatsoever. We didn't get any sleep, and we had to change some rules. So, some personal information here. Before, we had all these plans about, how we gonna train the baby to sleep. So we had like a play pen, I think it's called, but she has her own bed, and the plan was baby's gonna sleep in her own bed. But the first 2 nights was just hell. Me and her mom didn't sleep, and we one night, I think it was just by mistake, my wife decided to just breastfeed her next to her while we both were in the bed, and guess what? The baby slept through the night. So our trick right now is to co-sleep with the baby. Um, and with that, we're both able to buy 3 to 4 hours of sleep every night, which works out perfectly compared to not being able to sleep. So the answer to that is I've been sleeping better. I've been sleeping a few more hours. But again, baby grows, they get used to things. And now we just have to work on transitioning her back to be able to sleep on her own. But I'll keep you guys posted on that too. Um, let's see. Dan, can I talk about how I got started in aviation? Honestly, it's better you watch the videos. I've made ton. If you go on the channel and you maybe sort the videos from early to later videos, you see a bunch of them. But short story is I got my license when I used to live in Los Angeles. I read about a 15-year-old girl who flew cross country, and I thought I was being a wuss for. I mean, wanted to fly for about 20 years before then. I've always wanted to fly, and I never thought it was something I was able to do. And again, once when I read about that 15-year-old girl, I decided to go take a demo flight for my birthday, and that was all she wrote. And I've been flying ever since. And obviously, the Mojo Grip channel became. You guys turned it into what it is. Honestly, I never planned for the channel to be about reviewing airplanes or whatever it's turned out to be today. I started putting videos up of just my training when I was a student pilot, and then you watch that and you keep watching and you keep watching. So I'm grateful to all of you for that. Jamrock, is there a particular flight school at PDK I would recommend? Nope, because honestly, I haven't experienced anyone. I actually joined one of the schools. I believe it's called. Let me see. It's called Skybound. That's the only one that I've been in. Now, I can't recommend or not recommend them because I really haven't had much experience with them. But generally speaking, guys, if you are just getting started with your flight or your pilot journey, it's it can be frustrating. As a matter of fact, I know somebody right now close to me who they just started their flight training, and they signed up at a school local here in the state of Georgia. And the first day, something went wrong with the plane that they were supposed to fly. So they spent a few hours on the ground, couldn't fly. Another day, it was weather. Another day, the instructor was just out. So, and I hope this is not everybody or anybody's experience, but what you will understand with flight schools is a lot of them are mom and pop shops, and it's not always ran smoothly or professionally. You will have situations where you can't fly because the plane is being used, or the plane is down on maintenance, or your instructor just left you. So all those things that can happen, and which is also one of the reasons I've been pushing the Sling Academy on this channel. Now, given that they are a sponsor of Mojo Grip, but I'm telling you guys, when I go back and forth to California a lot, and I speak personally to the students, specifically students who have joined, they sign up to the program through watching Mojo Grip, and so I wanted to get a feel of their experience because I didn't want to promote bullshit. That's the honest truth. And what I hear from these guys is, boom, everything is good. And if you go to the Sling Pilot Academy, for example, it's not so formal. Like, it's not, everybody there loves to fly, and you're not having a situation where your instructor is leaving you in the middle of your training, or your airplane is down because of maintenance, or you can't even get an airplane. So another frustration you may run into as a student is you can't get an airplane because it's completely booked. So for you to actually get your flights in, you typically have to book airplanes in weeks in advance, and maybe prepay so that way they can leave the airplane for you, which to me, I don't like that. So if I would recommend a school at PDK, Skybound really is the only one that I'm familiar with, but I'm not saying that you will run into any of these issues that I just mentioned. So, and I'm gonna answer a few more questions and close out this chat, guys. Class 2 instructor diamonds are tough as hell. Yes, absolutely. One of the reasons why I decided to train in the DA40 was because it has a really good safety record. Garrett Paul, can you do a check ride with an experimental? I don't believe so. Don't quote me though, but I don't think you can. You have to use a certified airplane. Uh, for a check ride. I remember. Maurice, in the future, would you teach your child how to fly? You just keep watching, of course. You keep watching. She's gonna be flying. She wouldn't even be a year old before I get her into an airplane. So now, obviously, I'm not gonna force it on her or any of my kids, but they're gonna be around airplanes, and if they decide that they want to learn how to fly, then absolutely, I would love for my kids to learn how to fly. Aviator 007, would not the Glass Air be a safe plane for GA? Again, Glass Air is an experimental, and it's also a very fast airplane. It really depends on who's building the airplane and the pilot flying it. That's how safe. That's how you can measure the safety of it. Gary, baby is 2 weeks old. All right, I don't see more. Okay, last question. Hey, Sneak 2K2, appreciate you subscribing, man. Guys, if you're watching me and you're not subscribed, please go ahead and do so. And also hit the notification bell so you know when I'm uploading or when I upload a new video. So the last question I'm going to answer is... Actually, more just came in. Eric, what do you think about pairing the Sling TSI with the TP100 turboprop engine? But Eric, I have checked out that engine, and it would be really, really sweet to put a turboprop on a Sling TSI. Now, again, this video or this live stream is very much about safety, and the TP100 it's not so common. There's not a lot of airplanes flying with it. One of the reasons actually the reasons I chose to fly Sling TSI is because of the Rotax 915. Like, I've already talked in length about how advanced that engine is, but also because Rotax is a staple name. A lot of airplanes fly with the Rotax engine. So it's a well-known brand. It's been out there. It's had thousands and thousands of hours of being tested. So if I go with any engine, which is very important, if you're building your own airplane, the engine that you fly behind is extremely important. As much as I would love to put a turboprop engine on the TSI, I can't do that right now because to me it's not been tested much, and I don't want to be one of the first testers, just for the fun of it. So that's my answer to that. Let's see, any more questions here? If we buy a used plane that guarantees, do we have to be safe? Is there any authority to rate this plane? Joanna, I'm not sure exactly what you're asking. If you can phrase that question differently, it will really help. Hey, Chofa Guso, thank you, man. All the way from Guatemala. Appreciate you tuning in. So guys, Chofa just asked about a Sling TSI high wing. It's a video that's in queue right now. I'm gonna bring it up on the channel for you guys watching this live stream. So the Airplane Factory, who's also the designer of the Sling, they're coming out with a Sling TSI high wing, and I've been meaning to make a video to introduce it to you guys, but just stay tuned. I'm gonna make a video about it soon, and you guys stay tuned. All right, guys. So that would be it for questions. The last thing I'm gonna talk about is Mojo Grip membership. So if you have been getting hints in some of the videos that I've put up recently, I have a Patreon, but it's not the traditional Patreon for as in patreon.com. I used to be on, and I'm still on Patreon, but what I did was I moved all of my stuff in-house on the website mojogrip.net. So if you want to become a supporter of the channel or a paid member, I would greatly appreciate it. You can go on the website, it's mojogrip.net, or go to mojogrip.net/MVP, and you can sign up as a paid member. And you have the MVP and the Elite. So with different, just like on Patreon, you have different different rewards for each membership. But the cool thing for any membership is you get exclusive content. You also get to see, again, videos. Like right now, if you go on the website, you'll probably find a few videos that's not uploaded to YouTube at all, or that's never going to be uploaded to YouTube. So I'm going to put that on the website, and I continue to try to build it. So it's a really good way to support the channel. And for some of you have asked me, why would I move from Patreon to my own stuff? It's not so much because I didn't like Patreon. I really did. But one, they take, I believe, 10% of the donation, which is pretty fair. They have to pay their own bills also. But the tools, like for example, one of the things I always wanted to do was give that, what's the word I'm looking for? The early videos, or give exclusive videos to members. But I couldn't find the right tool to do it on the platform Patreon. What I had to do was I would have to upload the videos first on YouTube, and then give it on Patreon, which kind of defeats the purpose. The purpose is that it's not available on YouTube first. The purpose is it's available to Patreon paid members first. So little things like that I found it frustrating, and so I had to build on my own website, which has all of the stuff I need, and also I have more control on the content. So guys, again, if you are willing to support the channel, I would greatly appreciate it. Just go on mojogrip.net/MVP. Another way is if you just sign up for the newsletter. That's absolutely free. That way you get information as they come through the newsletter. All right, so there's no more questions. So guys, thank you so much for watching. As I mentioned, I'm gonna be doing a lot more list videos. For whatever reasons, you guys like that style of video. And here's the thing, I like doing list videos selfishly because it gets a lot of views for the channel, but it is very time consuming because it's like putting 5 different videos in one. So it's very time consuming. That's kind of why I've not made one in a long time, but it's been requested a lot through the comments. So while I'm home, I'm gonna be making a lot more of it, so you guys stay tuned for that. Alright, so until next time, I will try to be live again, maybe next week or in 2 weeks, whenever you guys can catch me. So guys, please be safe out there, and practice good habits if you are a pilot. Alright, so thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you guys next time.